I'm not just reporting what happened tonight, I'm breaking down the moment, the meaning, and what it could mean for the Maple Leafs moving forward. So let's dive into a situation that's got layers beyond a single play, and I'll tell you why it matters, not just what happened. A few seconds into the middle frame, a collision in the slot changes the energy of the room. Auston Matthews, the Maple Leafs captain, ends up leaving the ice with a lower body injury after a knee-on-knee clash with Radko Gudas. The moment is partly about a dangerous hit, partly about the timing, and partly about what it means for Toronto's season trajectory. Personally, I think the risk in that spot, the slot, the knee, the sudden stop, highlights how thin a margin there is between a highlight reel goal and a trip to the trainer's room. What makes this really interesting is Matthews' immediate impact prior to the injury. He had just broken a scoring drought with a power play strike at 10:47 of the second, his first goal since January 27. That goal wasn't just a stat line, it signaled a potential turning point for a player who's been a constant engine for Toronto. In my opinion, a drought-busting goal in a tight game can reset a lot of mental dynamics, confidence, urgency, and even the opponent's approach to the Leafs. When you're carrying that kind of weight, a moment like this becomes a test of leadership and resilience for Matthews and the bench. From my perspective, the injury changes the narrative in two directions. First, it tests the Maple Leafs' depth and lineup flexibility. If Matthews misses time, who steps into that primary scoring role? Does William Nylander, John Tavares, or a younger player pick up more minutes and offensive responsibility, or does Toronto lean more on its depth lines and special teams? The second direction is strategic. How does Toronto adjust its power play without its top sniper? Matthews isn't just a scorer, he's a gravity well for defenses, creating space for teammates. If that gravity shifts even temporarily, you might see different line combinations, mismatches, and adjustments in the rotation to keep the offense humming. A detail I find fascinating is the discipline call on Gudas. A major penalty in game misconduct for kneeing sends a message about accountability, but it also underscores how quickly a game can pivot on a single hit. If you step back and think about it, this is a reminder that playoff-style intensity happens in the regular season too. It's not just about who scores, but about who's willing to commit to physical play and keep the other team honest. What many people don't realize is how those penalties ripple through minutes and line pairings. A team's fourth line might have to log extra ice time, which can impact energy reserves late in the game. Now, let's connect this to bigger trends. The Leafs season has been defined by offense with a championship-level ceiling but some defensive and depth questions lingering. An injury to the captain intensifies the conversation about whether Toronto has the internal answers to absorb a star's absence. If you take a step back and think about it, this is a microcosm of how teams evolve. The star is a magnet for attention and goals, but the rest of the roster has to fill the engine room when that magnet is sidelined. It's also a reminder of how the league layers players into a system. One top line can power a lot of offense, yet the playoffs demand a deeper, adaptable roster. From a tactical lens, Matthews' absence could push the Leafs to lean into a more balanced attack, leveraging their depth players and a more structured defensive identity to sustain results while he recovers. If they can maintain pace without him, it proves the system holds up under stress. If not, it highlights where the gaps are and what the team must address in the near term, be it strengthening the bottom six, adjusting power play configurations, or optimizing line matching against certain opponents. The closing takeaway is simple but meaningful. A single game can become a case study in how pivotal a star's presence is, how a team adapts on the fly, and how quickly the season's narrative can tilt. Matthews remains a linchpin for Toronto, and the next chapters will reveal not just how well they survive this moment, but how they respond, with courage, adaptation, and a little bit of playoff-minded grit. If you're watching this, I'd love to hear where you think Toronto should turn next. Who steps up in Matthews' absence, and how should the power play unit evolve to keep the offense humming? Do you think this is a short-term hurdle or a signal of deeper roster decisions the Leafs need to consider? Let me know in the comments, and as always, I'll bring more context, heat maps, and deeper breakdowns in the follow-up.